And welcome into the Monday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. We got a whole lot to get into today here on the program. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. Little sore. Been working out now. I've been lifting pumping a little iron for the first time in
You can tell.
Yeah. I'm just busting out of this sweatshirt here. But 2 days ago, I mean, it wasn't even, I was like the old man in the gym, and there are other people in there like just absolutely, putting up a lot. And I'm down there on the bench with my little, and I'm sitting here like I just, like I'm Conan the Barbarian, and I've been, like pushing boulders for years. It's a lot of pain.
That's good pain,
some Motrin. Yeah, right. I mean, it feels like progress, but sometimes progress shouldn't hurt this much, right?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Keezer, how we doing? What's going on?
Hey, doing good. Joe, you fighting off some gout?
Well, this would be a good way to.
It really
probably
would be.
have less
in a
gout.
positive way. It's
stave it off.
It'll pay off some dividends.
Sure.
Man.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Then you just can't go from the gym right to 3 IPAs and a Reuben. That's the next challenge.
We'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
That's fine.
By the way, so we getting pizza soon?
Yeah,
I know.
We'll figure it out
Pizza and
this
beer
week.
soon?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
All right. Yeah.
We'll figure that out this week. I mean, look, both for the end of our pigskin pick'em competition, which we discussed on Friday, and I think pizza probably in order this week in celebratory fashion for Rexrode's favorite week of the year. It's finally here. NFL Combine week has arrived, Joe. Thursday is when this thing officially gets kicked off. Get fired up, baby.
So normally, and then in every year of this show, I would be coming to you from Indy this morning.
Yeah. And
what's amazing is I have no idea. Like, when did the Titans talk? I don't even know.
No clue.
You don't know either?
No.
We should, as a show, we probably should know these things. I assume they talk probably it's tomorrow or Wednesday.
I guess.
Right?
I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll try to find out before the end of the show. But, yeah.
We've done our level best to avoid the NFL Combine at all costs.
Yes. But
we're finally here.
Yeah, we are here for this week. So we will. I'm glad we get the content,
Sure.
I'm glad I just don't have to be part of it. I'm glad we get the content of, some questions and answers for Brian Callahan and Mike Bergonzi, and then, some interviews of the prospects. And
yeah, I can't wait till like James Pierce shows up, who hates media more than doing anything in life. And people like ask him, so have you talked to the Cardinals? So have you talked to the Texans? So have you talked to the Titans?
Yeah.
And just go down the checklist of teams.
By the way, so is there actually, quote unquote character stuff going on? Or is it just because
I've seen some stuff about that? I don't know where that.
I just don't know what it's based on, other than yes, he will not. I mean, he might be fine in team interviews. He's talking football. Like the media, when they talk to him, it's not going to go well. He just doesn't. He won't say anything.
Does not care.
No, he doesn't care anything. So, that'll be interesting. I'm sure that's one of those things where like his agent is like, okay, but just a little, give him a little bit. Say a little. But
didn't one of his former teammates in high school or something go on Twitter and like go ham on him or something like that?
Is that what happened? I don't know.
I think so. I'll have to find it and send it to you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Vol Twitter discussing it, basically defending him, like, what are you talking about? But I'm like, I couldn't find what they were talking about.
Yeah, like I could not find a reputable source to back all that up. So we'll see. Maybe it'll come up at the Combine this week.
Yeah. Meanwhile, since we're on the topic, did you see the Ian Rappaport tweet?
No.
Oh, good God. I saw that you have the rant today, which is great. This was going to be my rant.
Well, I could hand it off.
No.
Mine's a perma rant. It could be done at any time.
Well, this one's fine. We can do this now. We can bring it up later too. It's like, dude, are you writing your own tweets? Right? I mean, when you see this tweet, and now I'm
is it Shedeur Sanders?
Yes.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So here we go. Ian Rappaport, Colorado QB and potential top pick. Shedeur Sanders plans to focus on his interviews with teams at the NFL Scouting Combine, helping them continue to learn him as a person. He'll allow his 4 years of film to speak loudly, then throw at his pro day with 4 draftable CU wide receivers. Signed, Shedeur's agent, who took over my Twitter account.
He will allow the film to speak loudly.
I mean,
come on, man.
Have some self-respect, please.
And it's we've talked about that with Schefter before too. Like these these big national guys that get all this information. It's great. They work hard, all those things. But some of it, sometimes it's just like, can you make it a little less obvious that you're just like pumping the agent's noise
Right.
here?
That you're
Like,
just doing exactly what they tell you to do.
Right.
That you are just they are puppeteering you. Yes, like the Schefter stuff with Deshaun Watson. It's like, man, just don't talk.
just don't tweet.
Don't tweet.
You'd be better off just not saying anything.
So anyway, the actual interpretation of that is Shadour's not throwing at the combine. I'm not surprised, but yeah, I'm not surprised. It doesn't even really bother me. I know. I'm sure it's still for 4 hours about that today. I'm not surprised.
Well, maybe we could ask him later this week if he comes on our show.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know what are the bar specials on Thursday night around town.
I don't know.
You know, I mean, it might big bar night Thursday. Thursday night's big bar night.
It is.
But I'll be interested to see if Cam Ward throws. Now, you can make the case if you're his agent, like, well, I mean, you're more likely to be the number one pick. But see, I think with Shador, you would not want to suffer by comparison with Cam Ward because he would.
Yeah. Although if you're thinking that way, I don't know if that's what I want in the quarterback. But I hear you. I think you're right.
Yeah, but I mean,
have a little competition, man. Get out there and sling the ball around.
Yeah, but I mean, but that is the thing is like his hope of being the top pick or whatever of going high. First of all, I mean, the Cam Ward thing, it's very, very different quarterbacks. So some people, but I mean, his thing is it's going to be the quick reads, the accuracy, the stuff on film that like, a combine can't. It's not going. You can't replicate pressure. You can't. No. You can't replicate reading a blitz, all that stuff.
No, I'm not surprised that he's not going to throw. I am interested. Like, I think could Cam Ward help himself? He's probably going to go really high in the draft. So how much helping himself is he really going to do? I don't know. But yeah, like I think you could walk away from a Cam Ward workout and be like, oh yeah, okay, that's real good stuff right there.
Yeah, just some of the arm talent on display that I think certainly exceeds Shador. But yeah, I mean, look, I wish all these guys competed all the time and all did the stuff, but it's just the top. I think people at every position, if they're a lock. It's like there's a clear top receiver like Harrison last year. There's a clear top tackle, whatever it is. I think more and more you're going to see their agents be like, "Why? What does this do for us?"
Yeah, what purpose?
I don't care that NFL Network wants us to do it.
Right?
These if we're not going to help ourselves, why do it?
Right. We got a lot to get into the rest of this hour on the football front. Some quarterbacks that could potentially be available. Some quarterbacks talking with other teams. And some speculation thrown out there about another quarterback on the West Coast that we've not talked a lot about that is interesting. We'll get into all that a little bit later this hour. Joe, I want to begin with a huge win for Vanderbilt on Saturday. They win 77-72 against Ole Miss. We talked about that game on Friday and the importance of it for Vanderbilt, and they respond. They get the win at home. It was a win that they really needed to have after losing those 3 in a row, albeit against very, very good teams in the SEC. But you come back home, you get the win against Ole Miss, and now, Joe, you kind of gotten yourself back in the conversation here where I think it's going to come down the wire with Vanderbilt, but the NCAA tournament certainly now within reach by getting this win with Ole Miss.
Huge, huge win. And what Vanderbilt's been doing is they've been collapsing the second half. And so they're up 19 in the first half, and you're like, wow. And it gets all the way back to Ole Miss taking the lead in the second half. So for them to fight back from that and to to put that game away was awfully impressive. Awfully impressive. Gigantic win. But even with that, I mean, I'll give you a little preview of my bracket.
Oh, good.
I mean, I've got them as a 10 seed. And that's not super comfortable. The 11s, that's where you get that's the bubble, right? Is the 11s. And you get a little bit, you drop a little bit from the 11 and you're out of the field. So it's still close, but that's a huge win for them. It would be great for them they need to do something away from home at some point. And again, that could be here too. They're going to have to do something here away from home being, Bridgestone Arena in the SEC tournament, but they've set themselves up, and it's really impressive what Mark Byington's done here in this first year. And he has a bunch of different guys. Magnon is a guy who goes off late in this one with a 3 and a give and go dunk. Just a bunch of different guys. And on any given night, any of them could do something big.
Yeah, it was impressive to watch. I was watching Malik Dia out there, and it's like,
Oh man,
wow, he used to be at Vanderbilt. Wow, he used to be at Belmont. Wow, now he's balling for Ole Miss. This is crazy.
Also, sometimes I'm like, wow, he's going to be in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do you end up with on Saturday? 22? Is that what it was?
I
Yeah,
mean,
22 on 8 of 12 shooting.
He's out there step back 25 footers, like pure net, with that length. Yeah. Now, sometimes he also takes some shots. You're like, ooh,
yeah,
easy. But no, he is a fun player and quite a talent. Yes. Where will he be next? Now, wait a minute. This is his second year in a row at Ole Miss, right?
No, this is his first year.
Is this his
at Ole
first
Miss.
year?
Yeah.
He was Belmont last year.
He went Vanderbilt in 22-23, Belmont in 23-24, and now Ole Miss at 24-25.
Okay. So
3-3.
Next year, UConn. he likes the general
Southeast.
region. Tennessee.
Yeah. Well,
Take another step up in program. Yeah.
Florida Atlantic.
Rick Barnes will take him. No, there you go. No,
cover all areas in the Southeast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's a talent. Ole Miss is a really good team. I mean, that's like a 6 seed, 7, and that's a huge one. So Ole Miss, Tennessee, Kentucky, that's a trio of wins that a lot of teams out there trying to get in the tournament can't match. That's pretty good.
No doubt about that. Big win for Vanderbilt on Saturday. They get it done at home, and we'll see what they're able to do here the rest of the regular season and certainly into the SEC tournament here in Nashville. We'll get into Tennessee's performance against Texas A&M over the weekend coming up next. The Predators back in action, playing a couple of games. And like I said a little bit earlier, we got a lot of football to get into both the remainder of this hour and throughout the show. A lot of quarterback discussion that we're going to get into today. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We'll have more coming up next. You're on 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, we mentioned a huge win for Vanderbilt over the weekend. How about the Vols? They go on the road to Texas A&M, and they get it done, 77-69, the final on the road in a tough environment against a top 10 team. And what a shot at the end of the game by Zakai Ziegler to ice that one away. Just kind of one of those shots where you walk away and you say, yep, ice in the veins of that guy. He ends up with 16, 7 assists, and Chaz Lanier, awesome in the game. 30 points for him, 10 of 18 from the field, and more specifically, 8 of 13 from 3 in that game. So the threes were flowing for Chaz Lanier, and when he shoots the ball like that, that kind of takes this Tennessee offense to a different level.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think he had 22 in the first half. Huge win for Tennessee. That's two seeds playing, and so that to me, the Vols right now are the 5th team in the seeding line, and like they're very close to Alabama, and they play. And of course, there's an SEC tournament still, but like the outcome of Tennessee, Alabama, the one time they play, could be really important. If for Tennessee to get a number 1 seed. Now, if Tennessee does get a number 1 seed, is that out west? You could look at the pluses and minuses of out west, or being closer to home and being in 2. But it's still, if you're a 1, that means you don't have to deal with Duke or Auburn, in your bracket. And so, I think Duke and Auburn are the 2 teams everybody wants to avoid. Although Tennessee hung right with them, but still, those are the best 2 teams. So huge wins. Zakai Ziegler. I'm going to be on I will be hammering this. I've already been texting my coworkers about this. I'm like, Zakai Ziegler completely takes over a game in the second half, hits the big shot, is as good a defensive player as you're going to find. Everybody has Braden Smith of Purdue as the All-American point guard. Yesterday he goes 2 for 8, 6 turnovers. Bad defense. Purdue loses Indiana. They've lost 4 in a row. Zakai Ziegler should be the first-team All-American point guard over Braden Smith.
I like it.
I'm on the campaign trail.
I like it. How's that going?
I think people are starting to wake up a little bit. Like, this is a universal thing, and I think especially in basketball, it bothers the hell out of me. Defense is half the game. People don't care. Now, Braden Smith's a good defender too, so don't get me wrong. Like sometimes it's like 2 players, 1 player is a little bit better than one offensively, but there's a total difference defensively. Well, guess what? That should count in your you don't just go by the offensive numbers. You have to be better than that as a voter, and too often it goes away. And Ziegler's shooting percentage is bad. There's no question. Although now he's seems like since that injury, he's actually started to hit shots again. But defense half the game. And by the way, I still just like this game and so many other games, Jemai Makeshak, he's got to be one of the best glue guys I've seen in college basketball. And when he is right now, he goes in the NBA. He is a plus defender in that league and guard anybody in the league.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if he's going to be in the league, because obviously he doesn't have a lot of offensive game. I think he can shoot it better than he thinks he can. To just shoot more. But defensively, he is incredible.
Well, the thing I still worry about with Ziegler as we get down the stretch here is like he's played so much.
Yeah.
Does that catch up to him at some point? Like, just add another 33 minutes to the table the other day. And does that eventually get? Maybe it doesn't. Like it feels like he's shooting the ball recently here better than he shot it all year. So maybe he's found something here.
Yeah.
Cold tub going, hot tub.
Yeah. Well, 33 is like you can live with that. It's the 38s, But this is why the Vols. Now, if you're fighting for a 1 seed, you're fighting for a 1 seed. But it's like the Vols, Auburn, Bama, Florida. There's a bunch of teams I could make the case that they should just come to Nashville like, I'm sorry, guys. We'll see you next week. Because if you play 3 hard-fought games in 3 straight days over these teams that you want to beat so badly, you're going to be beat up to hell before the NCAA tournament. It's just, you could make a real case. As much as the fan base, like Auburn's fans will be all over this town, but you can make a case, guys, you don't need any of this. Just go get your rest.
Get you some rest.
Yeah. Play your backups. It's not going to happen. But that's why you like the conference tournaments, because they all want to compete.
Tennessee back in action tomorrow, taking on LSU on the road. They still have LSU and South Carolina on their schedule to close out the season. 2 teams that in this conference, not very good. They do have Alabama next Saturday, which is going to be awesome.
Yes, it's going to be fun. And yeah, South Carolina finally got a win, beat Texas.
Yeah.
Which is not a good outcome for Texas.
No, it is not.
A lot of teams right around the bubble in the SEC.
The Predators back at it this weekend as well. Mixed results in terms of the final score. And Joe, I thought kind of different results from each game. I didn't think they were very good Saturday. Like they got doubled up in shots. They didn't do hardly anything offensively. And yet they end up winning 2-1 against a Colorado team that, I didn't think had their A stuff on Saturday, but UC Saros was great. Like full credit to him. He was awesome in that game against Colorado. So a positive there of Saros comes out of the break and immediately has a really good performance, and they win the game against Colorado. Yesterday, I mean, you look at the score, and it's 5-0, and you're like, geez. They actually had the puck a lot yesterday, had some pretty good looks, and a story that has been very familiar this year, Joe. They could not score. That is the 8th time that they've been shut out. I believe their team record is 9 times, which took place in 2013, 2014. Probably going to get there. Probably going to at least tie that at some point. You're talking about 8 times this year they've been shut out. There ain't but 82 games in the hockey season, Joe, so you're going to be flirting with like 10% at least at the end of the year of games that you've been shut out in, which is not very good. By the way, they scored 1 in a lot of games and 2 in a lot of games, so the offense continuing to be a massive problem. And look, New Jersey gets 5 yesterday, and I believe Annunen stopped every breakaway attempt against him, and there was like 5 of those. So it could have been worse.
Man, because Joel says, Saros 31 saves for a star, and then 5 goals versus the Devils. What kind of analysis from Stilly can we expect?
Yeah, I'm not going to say Annunen was good yesterday, but he was very good against the breakaway. I'll say that.
Yeah.
He got tested a lot.
He got a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that, and I know like that's kind of the devil, like that's happened before to the Preds against the Devils, but that you have a really good win one day and then come back with that.
Well, and look, let's be honest here. We were talking about this. First off, you could see it last night. This is going to be a long end of the season here for them. Like Yossi after the game is just dejected. I was talking to Ryan O'Reilly after the game last night. He said this is one of the toughest things he's ever been a part of. And he was with Buffalo Sabres for a while, so he's seen some stuff. It's bad. And, we're getting real close to the point where the deadline's coming around and they're going to start moving people, and we'll see what that looks like. Nyquist is going to be probably on the move. Elliot Friedman had a report over the weekend that apparently some teams out there are trying to unite the Shen brothers. It's somewhere along the way. I don't know who that is, and I don't know who's going to be able to pull that off, but Braden Shen in St. Louis and Luke Shen here in Nashville, apparently some teams are looking to do that. So I'm very interested to see over the next couple of weeks here what the movement looks like. But you could walking in the room last night, you can tell that they've been trying to put their head down and do the right things, and they'll continue to do that. This is going to be a long last couple of months here.
Yeah. Yeah. And Riley, the difference, like you said, he's been on bad teams, but everybody knew they were bad.
Right.
So you're the bad trying to figure out some new direction. This was not supposed to be anything like that at all. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be obvious, like you said, there's going to be some people move. There's going to be probably more youth kind of filtering into the lineup a little bit, I'd imagine.
Yep.
But all these guys who are here, these veterans who are here, these great players, are just going to have to grind her out.
Here's a stat. I found this really interesting. Max Hurst threw this out there last night. Stamkos not on the board again last night. He has not had a point in 9 consecutive games. That's the longest scoreless streak in his career. And he hadn't had a pointless streak longer than 5 games since the first 2 months of his career.
Holy cow.
He's at 9 right now. That kind of shows you how things are going.
Yeah. And he's had good stretches this year.
Yeah. Last night was the first time I've walked in the room this year and been like, good Lord, I think that they're just counting down the days to get out of here. And I'm not saying that they dogged it last night, because I don't think they did. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think that's in them, but you could tell they are miserable in that room right now.
Yeah. The idea that this team would be, really it's before this, but just mid-February.
Yeah.
And just know that it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just unthinkable.
Well, and even like
unthinkable when the season started.
even the tone on that has shifted since they come back from break. Like, before the break, they were talking about like, you can put together a run, you
Yeah.
never know. And now it's like, yeah, we just we know what the standings are. Like, we know what the standings are, and we owe it to ourselves to go out there, and we're professionals and do all that.
Right.
Like the tone is shifted, and there's some realization as to where they're at.
Like, no one's going to sit there and say, we know we're screwed, but it's just like, you just have to be a pro.
Yeah. So they're back at it tomorrow against the reigning Stanley Cup champions. They have Winnipeg, who I believe has won 9 in a row. I think I need to go back and double check that, but I think they've won 9 in a row. That's coming up on Thursday. So schedule's not getting any easier for them moving forward here. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Ben's saying you gotta deal Yossi, get a haul, set up the future.
Wow.
Yossi would have to
Well, Yossi would have to agree to it.
agree.
They're not going to do that, first off, right now. One thing that we're going to get into when the season ends, and look, the way this has gone with everybody this year, we could have this conversation about a lot of people. But we've talked about him for a long time now. Like, he's been at such a high level for a long time. He's 34. And it just right now, it doesn't look the same with him. I mean, it's hard for me to judge it and just say, like, Yossi's falling off right now because everybody else is bad. Like, this whole team is bad. So when everybody's bad at the same time, maybe you start to look elsewhere for that. But, I mean, he is 34. He's played a lot of hockey. I don't think it's the craziest idea to throw the question out there of, like, is he still an elite defenseman? Like, is he going to be an elite defenseman moving forward? Or at his age, is he just going to be pretty good and you're going to have to deal with that? Like, I don't know. Like, this year has been an off year for him just as much as everybody else. So that's where you're at.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's just, you feel like if they were able to like figure some things out and just have a completely different start next year and things like that, I mean, that's the type of stuff that can rejuvenate someone, right?
Yes.
And this is the kind of season that can just take the edge off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, big time.
Yeah. I mean, the confidence in that room has just got to be zero right now. Like, it's a rough spot to be in. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Interesting development at the quarterback position in the NFL over the weekend that could indirectly affect the Titans. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Over the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode, the latest in the Matthew Stafford developments over the weekend. He has apparently been given permission by the Rams to talk with other teams and kind of get a sense of where his market value is. So Tom Pelissero has done some reporting on this. I've seen some from Yahoo as well. And basically, I think the expectation from them anyway still remains that Stafford's going to be the quarterback in LA and they're going to eventually get a deal worked out. But he has been given permission to talk with other teams where if a deal either falls through or if some other team is interested in trading for him and his services, you get a framework of the deal, the extension, what the contract's going to look like, and all of those things. So I guess my question is this. I don't know how many times in the history of sports, I'm sure it's happened plenty, but I don't know how many times in the history of sports it's gotten to be like, yeah, you go ahead and talk to other teams, and like that's worked out well, and the guys ended up coming back. We'll see what happens with Stafford on this front. My question for you is, do you think that it's still most likely that he's going to be the quarterback of the LA Rams and they're going to get through all this and come to an agreement? Or do you think this is the Rams kind of posturing, seeing what's out there, letting Matthew Stafford see his value? And do you think the Rams could have a different plan at quarterback, trying to get a little younger at that spot? How do you view the Stafford stuff right now?
It's really interesting. It's unique. And it's like you could look at it like the Rams saying, oh, okay. You Kelly, you and Kelly on the podcast. Kelly, speaking for you, you think we're screwing you over? Go out there and see what teams are going to be willing to pay you. So it could be something like that. But the thing, like if that's the case, first of all, you could be offended if you're Matthew Stafford. But also, I mean, if I'm him and his agent, I like the opportunity, right?
Sure.
I mean, but then it's like, okay, so what if he goes out there and the Giants are like, yeah, like we're ready to go all in, Okay, so now like the Rams still have to like the compensation for that, and then of course I keep coming back to then what would the Rams plan be? We heard on Sportsmanlike before the show the speculation about Darnold to the Rams.
Yeah.
Darnold in that offense, Kevin O'Connell, he's in that coaching tree. With Darnold with the Rams, you're cheaper than what Stafford is going to get wherever he is, and you're younger, and so you have more runway. I mean, if you're the Rams after just obliterating him and ending his season, how excited are you about it? I mean, it's just one game. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's younger. I think we would all agree that Sam Darnold is not as good as Matthew Stafford now, but he does probably have more runway, right? I mean, you're talking about a younger guy that, if he plays like he played for the majority of last season, like you can do a lot of winning with that. Now, the question you got to determine there is, all right, is he going to play like he did the majority of last season, or is he going to turn into a pumpkin like he did the last couple of games? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. We've talked about a lot about that as it relates to the Titans. By the way, we're going to bring up Sam Darnold in the 7 o'clock hour. Very interesting piece at ESPN.com that I think the Titans are considering and should consider as they move forward here. But back to the Stafford part of this. Like, this is really interesting the way this is shaking out. We talked about the number that Stafford is due coming up. The cap hit for him is $49.7 million and $53.7 million for the next 2 years. That's the cap hit for him. The actual number that he's coming in is less than that. So he's looking at it and he's seeing all these quarterbacks around the league right now making all this money, right? Like Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and Tua Tagovailoa are all getting paid. More guys are going to get paid a ton of money as the salary cap continues to go up. And he says, my level of play warrants more money than I'm getting right now. Are the Rams actually going to want to do that? Like, is that going to be something they want to do? And look, if when you get through this process and he's talking to these other teams, what does the interest level look like for other teams? And like, how tempted are the Rams let's say Stafford goes out and he talks to, another team that, Minnesota or the Giants or whoever, and they come back and say, we'll give you a first round pick and like a third round pick for Matthew Stafford. Like, how do the Rams view that? Like, are they so on the fence with him that they're just looking for some draft compensation right now, and that's really what's behind all this? Or are they just saying, yeah, go out there and see your value, and when you don't like it, come back here and we'll pay you what we think we should pay you?
Yeah. Are they totally open-minded? Let's just see. Or is it, is it just sort of like, well, we'll let you go out there and find out that it's not as great as you think, or that your value is not as good. But I mean, maybe they don't know either. I mean, I have to think there's a chance that there's a team out there that's like, heck yeah, a couple years of him. I mean, the Giants, pretty freaking bad, but it's the same thing. Like, even with the Giants, okay, well, what if you add really good quarterbacking to everything else? It's not like they're a completely horrific team. It's the quarterback has been, I think, the biggest problem for them last year. I think it was, for sure. So I guess you could talk yourself into it if you're the team. Have a good off season, bring him in, and buy. Like, we can be a playoff contender in the NFC right now, and who knows what next year.
Well, and I said this a few weeks ago as the Stafford stuff started swirling out there. Like, this to me this is good for the Titans. Like, the more veteran options you've got at quarterback out there on the market, I think the better chances that you end up with somebody you like if you're the Titans. That's probably not going to be Stafford. But like, if Stafford ends up being available, well, that's another quarterback that's out there. Then the Rams have to make a corresponding move. We'll see what they do on that front. But there's already a lot of veteran options out there. A lot of pros and cons to most of them when you look at it. But I'm really interested to see if he breaks loose. Like, how does that affect the rest of the market here? Like, how does that affect Darnold? How does that affect where Rodgers ends up, Russell Wilson, all these guys? Because Stafford, I think you and I would agree, if he shakes loose, is probably going to be the top prize available out there this year.
Yep. And that's the thing. Again, like, if you're the Titans, yeah, like, definitely the more the better if you're trying to get into this thing. But what if this does end up leading to, like the Rams' plan is Darnold?
Yeah.
Then your great plan, well, some people really, really want it to happen, is not going to happen.
That'd be tough for a certain person here on the station.
That'd be tough.
Ethan from Lawrenceburg says Stafford to the Steelers makes the most sense. It also would be really good. I've thought about that. There is another team that I am very interested to see what they do at quarterback this offseason. They've got a decision to make with a quarterback of their own, which is going to be really fascinating, I think. And maybe it's just as simple as they bring him back and he's the quarterback moving forward for them and they pay him the long-term money. Or maybe, Joe, they look at their roster and they say, man, we're getting older. Our window is maybe diminished already, but certainly shrinking right now. And we got to make a dramatic move at quarterback. That was thrown out there this weekend in a piece that I saw on SI.com, and it does relate to Matthew Stafford. We'll get into that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. So he brought up Matthew Stafford. Very intriguing quarterback situation that bears monitoring, as he has been given permission by the Rams to look around and see what his value is out there. There's another quarterback situation this offseason, Joe, that I don't think is getting a ton of attention, because I think the thought has been all along, and my thought probably still largely remains this way, that this player is going to get signed and he's going to be kind of that next guy who gets paid more than $50 million a year with the situation that he's in. And that's Brock Purdy in San Francisco. Brock Purdy kind of is next in line to be the guy that makes a lot of money, and San Francisco has been preparing for that. Like, they've been preparing for the extension that's coming Brock Purdy's way. We've talked about that with Charles Robinson over the last year or so, and he's kind of laid that out there. You know, Jed York, their owner, said earlier this month that they're going to do everything to kind of get an extension done with Brock Purdy. So it feels like that's where things are going to go with him. I did see an interesting article over the weekend on SI.com that did get me thinking about it a little bit, just in terms of the Stafford stuff floating out there, and Purdy still to this point is unsigned moving forward with San Francisco and hasn't reached that new deal yet. And I'll just read a piece from Grant Cohn from SI.com and just give you like the first couple of graphs of it. It says the Rams recently gave Stafford permission to seek a trade. Stafford presumably wants a contract extension. Rams don't seem too keen to commit themselves to a 37-year-old quarterback. So should the 49ers trade Brock Purdy to the Rams for Stafford? The Rams most likely want a younger quarterback to pair with their revamped roster, and the 49ers have a much older roster, aging veterans, and Stafford a significantly better quarterback than Purdy. Why not go all in? Why not give this aging core its best chance to finally win a Super Bowl? Now, we all know San Francisco heading into last season, it's interesting to think about it now with the way it played out, but they were the favorite heading into last season to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Things went haywire. They had a lot of injuries. Brandon Ayuk got hurt, and they did not come close to living up to preseason expectations this last year. Purdy did not play as well this last year as he has previously, but there are a lot of things going on around him that contributed to that. How do you view the Brock Purdy situation? And if you're San Francisco with that core that's been so competitive for so long, that is getting older and looking like maybe they're already on the other side of things with no Super Bowl championship to show for it, would you make a dramatic move and try to go get the veteran in Matthew Stafford if you're the Niners this offseason?
I like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's very good. If the Niners got Stafford and didn't have a disastrous injury season, they'd win it all. But if you're the Rams, why are you letting them do that?
Well, that's the thing. You're talking about a team that's in your division.
Letting them do that. I'm not at all. But yeah, if I'm the Niners, if somehow those guys are old friends, they could somehow come to a, Shanahan McVay, they've been buddies forever, going back to their time together in Washington long ago. If they somehow can, hey, you can use like the house in Aruba for a month, or like Aspen, whatever. Like, I don't know, what can we barter here beyond, the draft capital and stuff. They can work that out great. But yeah, like if I'm Sean McVay, I'm not letting the Niners have him, because I think that it would definitely be an upgrade over Brock Purdy. Again, I like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's very good.
Yeah.
And I would pay him. If I'm the Niners, I mean, that's like, you could do way worse than him. I think he proved himself, and I think I would pay him. But if I had this opportunity, in the window, because it's small here. I mean, a lot of things are, and look, it may be over. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes down to like, is McCaffrey? I mean, does he have a full season in him?
They're pretty old
player?
right now.
Yeah, like it's right there. So if you can get obviously much older quarterback, but better quarterback, come in and that offense light up, yeah, man, I would do it.
Yeah, they are such an interesting team to look at the way it's gone here, because they have, by and large, this year notwithstanding, have been either the most talented roster or right there on the short list of the most talented rosters in the league for a good while now. Like they built up a really solid roster on both sides of the ball. It started to go the other way this year. So maybe they're at the end of this thing. I don't know. Purdy's been good. Like, 2023, he completed nearly 70% of his passes. He threw for 4,280 yards. He had 31 touchdowns, 11 picks. He was throwing for 9.6 an attempt. Like it were really good numbers. This year, they all of his numbers took a step back this year. Now, again, there are a lot of things going on around him, like Deebo Samuel's falling off the cliff. Brandon Ayuk got hurt. George Kittle's a year older. Like there's a lot of things going on right now that did not help Brock Purdy this year. I agree with you. Like Brock Purdy, I think is good. He's a good quarterback. And with some of the other guys around the league that have been paid, he probably deserves to be paid. I have wondered, like the Niners have gone through this entire run with Jimmy G, who was at his height, good. Like he was a good quarterback. He wasn't great. Purdy has been a pretty good quarterback. They've not really had that upper crust, top level quarterback play. Like Stafford could give you that. The question I would have, first off, I'm with you. Like the Rams are not going to let that happen. And number two, even if they did, like, is it just too late with everybody else right now? Like, are they so far on the other side of it with some of their injuries and age right now that they've just missed their window here?
Yeah, and I think if they haven't, you could still win with Brock Purdy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get the Super Bowl. So like, how much are you disrupting, chemistry or whatever by taking Purdy out and jamming in Matthew Stafford? Maybe. Yeah, it depends on how much of an upgrade you really think it is. It is a downgrade in mobility.
Yes.
I mean, Brock Purdy has definitely made a lot of plays, just extending plays too. So there's that to keep in mind. But to me, like this year has to be win it all or bust for the Niners. It has to be. They are very close to having to dismantle and just reboot the whole thing.
Well, that's the other thing about this is, if they made a move, an aggressive push for Stafford, you're talking about it the next year or two. Like that's what it is. Purdy, while he's not as good as Stafford, he's 25. So, I mean, conceivably, we'll see if this happens, but if things go well for him, he could be a quarterback the next 10 years. Like you're giving up a long-term future at quarterback if you decide to kind of short circuit that thing.
Yeah. It's kind of a philosophical thing too, because you could take the other side of that and say, okay, so you're going to pay this guy. You have long-term, pretty good quarterbacking.
Right.
You could do worse, but in the league now, the way people move around and stuff, maybe it's not such a bad thing to have a better quarterback later in his career, but for a smaller amount of time. But then you go on to the next one.
Right.
And then at some point, maybe you get the young one who's great and not just good to really good like Purdy.
Yeah.
He's way beyond where they drafted him, obviously.
I mean, I think if you're assigning percentages to it, like it's probably a 95% chance that Purdy's going to get an extension this offseason. Like it seems to be, they've been preparing for that for a while, and that seems to be where they're going. It's probably the right move. I just saw that piece at SI.com, and like thinking about Stafford on the Niners is interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly like the kind of team that needs him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like they're the best. I mean, that's the best example of a team that's perfect to bring him in and just go do it. I don't know if there's anybody else. The problem is, no one's going to help you like that in your own division.
Just I don't think so. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will continue the quarterback discussion coming up next. The reclamation quarterback in the National Football League. Titans could have some options there this offseason. It's a more popular thing now, seemingly, than it's been at any other point in league history. What have we learned? What has worked with reclamation QBs? What has not? And how does that affect the Titans? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. We are taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us next hour. We'll get into all things Titans and Predators with him. So looking forward to that conversation. Joe, the reclamation project at quarterback. It is a very popular thing in today's NFL, more popular than it ever has been before. We've talked about some recent examples of success, the latest of which is Sam Darnold, who began his career with the Jets, has kind of bounced around all over the place, whether that was in Carolina, San Francisco, his breakout season last year in Minnesota. Geno Smith, also drafted by the Jets, a breakout season with the Seattle Seahawks a couple years ago. He's been the starter there ever since. Baker Mayfield doing good things in Tampa Bay. And as Ben Solak points out here on his piece at ESPN.com, you can throw Ryan Tannehill in that mix too, baby. Ryan Tannehill.
Absolutely.
Ryan Tannehill, not the same as like a Darnold or a Geno Smith. Like he had moderate levels of success in Miami, threw for 4,000 yards, multiple years. Was not a bust, but also probably did not live up to being the number 8 overall pick, which is what he was.
Right. Like he got a second deal.
Right.
But then, yeah, they were ready to move on. He hurt his knee, all that stuff. And they were like, okay, time for Tua. Tua time.
Yeah. Like there are other examples of success. Jared Goff, who in his first stop did take a team to a Super Bowl, lost Super Bowl, but took a team to a Super Bowl, had some years of really good football. They move on to Stafford, make the trade, and he's doing well in Detroit. You've also had some quote-unquote reclamation projects at quarterbacks that have not gone well over the last few years. Carson Wentz, after his first stop in Philadelphia, didn't go so hot for him in Indianapolis.
Well, he peaked at his first stop.
He did.
He
did.
actually was good, at least, at his first stop. His
Right.
first stop made all the other stops like, ooh, this could be interesting. And then it's like, oh, no, he is not good.
Exactly. Like Solak brings up my guy Jameis, who I'd say up and down would be how you describe Tampa. Like he threw for a ton of yards. He also threw for an enormous amount of interceptions at Tampa, and he has not been able to be a starting quarterback since then. Justin Fields in Chicago got a little bit of a look last year, and then he also threw Josh Rosen, Paxton Lynch, and Mitch Trubisky in this example as well, which Rosen, I don't even know if he was around long enough to be in this conversation.
I thought he was cut 5 minutes into his NFL career.
So there's all that. The point is, there have been several examples over the last few years of the reclamation project at quarterback working. There have been several examples of it not working out so well. So I guess the question is, if you're the Titans looking at this offseason, and you've got some of these guys that we just threw out there that could be options for them, what have we learned about like quarterbacks on their second or third stop? What's the key to those acquisitions working out? And how do you view all this if you're the Titans? Solak goes through a lot of interesting things here, which we'll get to some of those that he puts in his article. And he kind of goes through like the keys to a successful quarterback reclamation. The first of which being, quote, the quarterback actually has to be sort of good. And he talks about like where these guys were drafted, right? Like Darnold was 3rd overall, Mayfield was 1st, Tannehill was 8th. Like there's obviously a base level of talent that a lot of these guys have that they didn't live up to in their first stop, whether that's because of the situation that they're in, the organization they were drafted by, but there's a baseline level of talent that a lot of these guys have had. One thing that he also gets to, which we'll get into here in just a few minutes, he's like, his headline is great coaching definitely helps, but great wide receiver play might be more important. Like go look at some of these guys, whether that's Tannehill with A.J. Brown here, Darnold with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. Geno Smith's had DK Metcalf out there. Like they've had really good wide receivers that have been a huge part of this. Baker Mayfield's had Godwin and Mike Evans down in Tampa. There's a pretty common theme with these guys that have worked out in their next stops, all having like either elite level receiver play or pretty close to it out there that's gone hand in hand with this. I mean, Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown, like there's a lot of examples on that you can point to. So That's a long-winded way, Joe, of me getting to this question of if you're the Titans and you're sitting here looking at all this, you're looking around the NFL with all the reclamation projects at quarterback that have gone on over the last few years. There's been a lot of them. How do you view it? What do you think we've learned from it? And what's the key to making it work if you're the Titans?
Yeah, well, you have to be up for it for sure. The second best quarterback in this franchise's history in Tennessee is a reclamation project. And one of the guys mentioned in this piece. So I mean, you have to be open to it. It's obviously not a slam dunk. When you said that with the high picks, like a lot of times it's guys who came out very highly regarded. I was trying to think of like examples where that wasn't the case. Like, well, Russell Wilson was, but Russell Wilson was best at his first stop,
right?
And he hasn't been as good. Kirk Cousins, 4th round pick, but he's never. Yeah, I guess you could say like the Minnesota would have been a reclamation. I mean, he was a coveted free agent. They tagged him twice. Washington did. He got out. It's still a little bit different. And I mean, I think the reclamation project almost has to be the highly drafted guy who disappointed to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So, no, I think it's. Look, I think we're going to see more of it, and is it just because like going from bad situation to good situation? Is it because some people just need more time, or they just had bad luck? I mean, I look at Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield was pretty good in Cleveland, man, and then he got hurt. And I mean, obviously, if they could go back, they would do that completely differently.
Yes, they would.
But I mean, at the time, I don't remember everybody screaming about it like it was like the biggest crime in the world that they were going to move on, right? But he was pretty good there. Some of these guys weren't good at their first stops, but also they were in such bad situations. I mean, the 2 Jets guys,
yep.
Right? So some of it is, it's like being able to see the situation for what it is and how much does that affect a quarterback. PK thinks that Will Levis at some point could be one of these guys.
Right.
Look, if I'm his agent making the case for him, I'm saying, okay, let's go look at back what Will Levis had to do. Now, we all watched Will Levis play last year, and I think most people would agree that it just wasn't good enough. I just isolate him, and even with all the things around him, it wasn't good enough. Doesn't mean it couldn't be someday, but I'm not hitching my wagon to that if I'm an NFL franchise. So, but as far as the Titans for their next answer, yeah, I mean, I think Darnold is a great example of one good year. So is that what he is, or those conditions you mentioned? You can't really have much better than Jefferson, and really, all the skill around him, plus the coach and play caller, really strong. So is Darnold about to take off? Was that a sign of things to come, or did he benefit greatly from an incredible situation and he's going to just kind of be okay moving forward?
Yeah, like another thing that most of these guys have in common is their first situation was with bad organizations. Like I brought up the 2 Jets guys and Darnold and Smith. We know what the Browns are. Like that's where Baker Mayfield was. Tannehill with the Dolphins. Like, are the Dolphins a bad organization? And done a whole lot of winning over the last couple of decades. Like it's just they're kind of just meh.
The funny thing about the Tannehill, the Dolphins, they had decent receivers, but not great receivers. But the year that he had a great year, they made the playoffs, was the year that Jay Ajayi went nuts.
Yes.
And they ran the ball, and they actually had a balanced offense. And then he gets hurt, and he can't play in the playoff game. And they lose to the Steelers with what's his name? Who the heck was that QB?
Matt Moore?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So, but that was the one year where it was like it all kind of came together. But yeah, he actually produced pretty well given, just not terrible, but not great circumstances by any means.
Yeah. Well, and then there's Goff, right? Like Goff was certainly not in a bad situation in LA. Like Solak in the article says, like Goff initially looks like the counterpoint here. The Rams are a sharp team, but it's actually a perfect look at the process. In the first half of the McVay-Goff partnership, McVay proved that it could be done with Goff, that great scheming could minimize the flaws of a pocket passer prone to high-risk throws while maximizing his delightful arm talent. when the McVay-Goff relationship crumbled and the Lions looked into resuscitating Goff's career, they weren't betting on an unsuccessful player from a bad team. They were hoping to replicate the fleeting success of that sharp team on a longer, more dependable arc. So the Goff one does kind of feel like he's an outlier from the rest of these guys that came from just horrific situations for the most part.
Yeah, the Goff one is really interesting because it just seemed like he got bad. Like they go to the Super Bowl and he got bad. He got benched, and he and McVay obviously didn't get along. You know, you figure McVay, given what McVay is going to have a very high standard for QB. But yeah, it went sour, and so yeah, go back to, I'm sure, to some great segments we had on here about Goff back then. I was like, yeah, he's trash heap, perfect for the Lions. Enjoy that, Lions. He can get you 5 wins.
Yeah.
And then we saw what happened. So, but at least there was a high level of success. I mean, I remember the Goff Mahomes 54-51 Thursday night football game. I mean, obviously, what's his name gets wide open all the time, Cooper Kupp, and they had Robert Woods and whoever back then. But I mean, that required a lot of good throws too. Like the guy was playing at a high level. You at least had tape of that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. What do we make of the reclamation quarterback projects that have gone well in the NFL? Could the Titans take advantage of that this offseason? Plus, another part of this that Ben Solak writes about that seems to be a pretty common theme that I'm interested to see how the Titans could possibly solve that problem. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away. See the Predators take on the Winnipeg Jets at Bridgestone Arena this Thursday night. Be call number 5-615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Winnipeg Jets at Bridgestone Arena coming up this Thursday night. Taking your thoughts on the quarterbacks around the league. We've gone through the reclamation project at quarterback, which seems to be more common than ever before in the league. Some have worked out very well. Some have not. Titans with an opportunity to do that this offseason if they want to. And the guys available, obviously Darnold's the key one that we've talked about. You've mentioned Justin Fields. He is expected to be out there and available if the Titans want to do that. Daniel Jones, coming off a less than stellar season for the Giants, could be out there. Jameis Winston could be out there. I mean, look, if you want to get crazy, Zach Wilson could be out there. Like
We haven't talked about him in a while.
Zach Wilson. I mean, as Solak in this piece on ESPN.com, he's listing off all these guys. He's got, pretty lengthy descriptions of Daniel Jones and Jameis Winston and Justin Fields. It gets to Zach Wilson, and it says, quote, I mean, probably not, but there's a chance, man. That's all it says on Zach Wilson.
I thought you were going to tell me you just said cougar time or
Well,
something like that. I mean, look.
That could also factor in.
Hey, I covered a Titans-Jets game in which Zach Wilson made a couple plays. I was like, wow, Vrabel, you just lost to Zach Wilson, bro. Was this a Vrabel special? He just ran around and winged a 50-yarder on the run downfield to, I think to Corey Davis, right?
It was Corey Davis, yeah.
Torched you. Every once in a while, man, that guy will make some plays, and you're like, okay, I can see it. But, yeah, I think we've seen enough from him to discount him, I think.
It's interesting that Solak he gets through all these people, and he says, all right, so which teams qualify as potential turnaround homes for these guys? And he throws Atlanta out there, which is interesting, but the QB2 spot, if Penix went down. The Rams, depending on what happens with them, Minnesota with the Darnold stuff. The Giants are included in there. The Jets are included in there because Garrett Wilson's on the team. Says, which teams don't qualify? The Colts, number 2 on his list. The Titans.
Yeah.
He says, Calvin Ridley comes in below my bar of, quote, elite enough wide receiver to save a floundering quarterback. And the Titans will either draft a quarterback first overall or pass on a quarterback with the top pick. The Titans changed general managers in 2023, head coaches in 2024, general managers again in 2025. I'd let them figure things out before I hitch my wagon there, is what Ben Solak says.
Totally. I agree with all that. Now, I will say, that's the thing. You can change quick. If you have good choices, you can quickly change a situation. You really can. So I like Solak a lot, especially because he and I are totally aligned that Travis Hunter is going to be an all-time great cornerback in the NFL. And for the most part, I agree with that assessment of Tennessee. But if you're thinking about a long-term situation, I mean, you do have to also look at the Titans and figure they're going to draft a receiver, right? At some point. So you may end up having it. But a lot of it is, it's like if you're a player and you look at the Tennessee Titans, yes, they're bad. They're bad. And so what is there to like? Okay, you can definitely talk yourself into, well, they have a great offensive line coach. So you would hope that part of the team would get better pretty quickly. And then it's like, I like Nashville. Everybody likes Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has that as a plus on the pros and cons list. But that's how much does just the turmoil, the constant firing, all that stuff make you think, man, they're just not going to figure it out. They've turned themselves into this bad franchise in the league where they're just going to keep spinning their wheels.
That's the thing. Are around the league with the players, are the Titans viewed as the Jets or the Browns? Some of these bad organizations that we've talked about here that are on this list. I don't know. And it wasn't that long ago. The Titans are pretty good. That's how quickly things can change in the NFL. But if you're a Titans fan looking for hope, well, that's how quickly things can change in the NFL. I mean, it's pretty fluid in the National Football League. The point he brings up about receivers is really interesting in this. You go through pretty much all of them, right? Darnold, we know the receivers he had. Geno, had a pretty good Tyler Lockett and a really good DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, like pretty good receivers. We know Mayfield. I mean, he's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin down there. Tannehill, when he was here, the success here was right in line with A.J. Brown, right? Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, there's been hand in hand with all these guys that have worked out in their second or third stop. It's been pretty high-level wide receiver play that right now the Titans just don't have.
Yeah. It's also like almost inexcusable for an NFL team to not have at least one really good wide receiver.
I agree.
You know, I mean, some don't. So obviously they've screwed up.
Yeah.
But you look at some of these teams that have several. Yeah, I will say with Goff, I mean, yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's a little different in terms of not having like the deep threat guy, but you can get a first down whenever you want with him.
Right.
And it's almost like Mahomes with Kelsey, where it's like when it comes down to it, maybe not this year as much, but it comes down to it, like if they need to make a play, he will make a play for them.
Right.
And
exactly.
That's what St. Brown
Well,
is.
I would agree with Ben Solak's assessment here. Like Calvin Ridley, I don't think is really that guy. Like I think Calvin Ridley on a good team, I think could be a good 2.
Yep.
Like I think that could be what he is. And look, quite frankly, about halfway through last year, I wondered if he was that.
A decent 3.
Like, yeah, I was like, man, this
a solid 4.
And obviously the quarterback play around here last year was brutal. But like if you watch the games, it wasn't just the quarterback that was having problems early on last year with the Levis Ridley connection. Like Ridley was not doing a lot of the right things. And then, to his credit, he figured it out as the year went on and ended up being more productive in an offense that was terrible. But like looking ahead here, if you're going to go the reclamation quarterback route, like if you're going Daniel Jones this offseason or even Sam Darnold, like if that's what you're doing, like how aggressive do you have to be if you're the Titans to really bolster that wide receiver position? And how much can you do that in one offseason? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, unless somehow the Higgins thing were to happen, or you trade down a little bit and you take Tet McMillan and he's as great as the highest hopes would say.
Yeah.
He's maxed out what people would hope he would be. Something like that. That's pretty slim opportunity to me. There are always surprises. No one was thinking A.J. Brown's going to be what he was in the first game in the NFL. He takes 150 yards on a little stick route in Cleveland. You're like, oh, gee.
He's pretty good.
And it just kept going from there. So you don't know. But still, even when he was drafted, I thought that was a great second-round pick after watching him at Ole Miss, right? I mean, you could see he could play. Ed says, if we're open to outside reclamation projects, what about the internal one we already have? So I was like, wait a minute. Are you saying you want to like just keep going with Levis? He said, no, but that would mean you're carrying 2 reclamation QBs, which would mean you need to carry a third. Well, that would be part of the reason, to move on from Levis and whatever you do at starter, then have just a regular, quote unquote, air quotes, regular backup quarterback.
Yeah. Like, I mean, are we going to be having a conversation 2-3 years from now about reclamation quarterbacks and he's one of them? Like, is he going to be one of them at some point? I don't know. Like, quite frankly, it's hard for me to get there having watched him play, but it would have been hard for me to get there having watched Sam Darnold play with the Jets, right? Geno Smith. It would have been hard for me to get there too. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's not. Just, you can't turn the football over at the rate he turns the football over.
Right. Texter mentioned, some of these young guys who could be this later. Caleb Williams, Bryce Young. We'll see. Caleb, in both cases. I mean, the Bears might be building something decent around Caleb Williams. I mean, Ben Johnson's a good hire. Bryce Young's interesting because they're still crap, and he got a lot better. I mean, the benching actually worked last year or whatever, or he came back from it. I still think he's got some good football ahead of him. But will it be there?
It doesn't look like things are going to work out for Richardson with Indianapolis, but like with his physical skill set, could he, I don't know, 3 years down the road be one of these guys? Maybe.
Yeah.
The thing with him is like, I mean, he completed 47% of his passes last year. Like, how much better is that going to get moving forward?
It's got to get way better.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on the quarterback front. The Rob Rant coming up later this hour. We'll have Corey Curtis from News 2 at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Great song. The song's on NCAA Football 06. Fires me up. One of the greatest games of all time. Rexrode's big fan.
I'm so excited that you like a Pixie song. It's an absolute banger.
Yeah.
From the album Doolittle.
Yeah, there you go.
Check it out, young people. Pixies. First
good.
two albums.
Good
two of the
stuff.
best albums of all time.
Good stuff. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. I got one texter going to our quarterback conversation. Says, if we get a great wide receiver, we'll just trade him so we don't have to pay him. That was 2 regimes ago now. So maybe a different philosophy here coming up.
Yeah, it's not. Different people. This is what I get after PK for. The whole wide receiver thing. It's like, okay, great. I mean, those are different people picking players back then.
But according to some around here,
it's
Amy was the one that traded AJ.
Oh, well, there's that too. Well, let's not start that debate. Yeah, Chase and Big Joe want to just completely absolve J-Rob.
Look, I don't know what Amy thought.
Well, I mean, I look, yes, you do. You know that Amy signed off on it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's who you want to blame.
Amy forcing J-Rob to do it. That's a new one.
It is. Hey, as the years go on, maybe that's the story that's told one day.
If I'm J-Rob, I want that out there as much as possible.
You wouldn't believe the lengths she went through to make me trade AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Rabel was disgusted by it. That's what his reaction was on the draft for everyone to see.
That's what I would have told the Jags when I was trying to get that job. Didn't work.
I mean, he didn't even make it as a finalist in that one. It kind of feels like it's going to be hard to come by another general manager job for him right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously pretty soon he's going to get a job somewhere with someone.
Doing something.
Yeah, in personnel. And then, maybe at some point he can build, if where he goes wins big, then you can maybe get another crack at it. And if he can continue to tell Rappaport's agent, Rappaport will tweet about it.
Ian, I need you to tweet something for me, please.
John Robinson had nothing to do with AJ Brown trade.
Yeah, like it's not. We talk about it not being a great offseason on the quarterback front. It's not a great offseason on the finding the answer at wide receiver front either. Like, assuming T. Higgins gets tagged by Cincinnati, there's just not a lot out there free agent wise at wide receiver. And then, we've talked about the draft part of it. Could you end up getting, Ted McMillan? Do the Titans totally disagree with Rexrode and they think Travis Hunter is going to be an elite wide receiver in the NFL? Maybe. Like, maybe your answer comes somewhere in the draft. But it is like this is not this reclamation quarterback conversation. It's not a new conversation on the Darnold front specifically. Like, one of the things you're going to have to figure out if you're the Titans or anybody else is how much of that was him and how much of that is he's playing with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, and he's being coached by Kevin O'Connell. Like, you're just not going to run into that situation a ton in his next stop if there is a next stop. Now, if it's McVay, maybe you do. I mean, they've got Puka Nacua. They've got McVay. It's not the same, but it's a pretty good situation.
Good back. Yeah. Yeah. And look, obviously McVay, I mean, they have a pretty good feel for, really on both sides of the ball. They seem to hate picks. They always, rip on picks, but then when they actually use picks, they use them pretty well.
Yeah.
So that could be a pretty good situation. Yeah. I mean, look, if you're, like you said, if you're Darnold, in the way Solak broke it down, Darnold looking at here and it's like, yeah, Calvin Ridley's, he's good.
Fine. Yeah.
It's a good, you're fine with him as part of your receiver room. As the clear headliner with a whole bunch of question marks afterward, that's not great.
No, and Calvin Ridley, it's so easy to just wash last season away and blame it on the quarterback, right? Like, really, if you want to look the last 2 years, we've seen how it's gone with Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence, he signs the big deal. Like, I'm really interested to see the way he plays this year coming back. It just kind of feels like he is what he is at this point in the NFL, which is an okay quarterback. But you're talking about the last 2 years, it's been basically identical production from the end standpoint of it. If you're Ridley, he had 76 catches for 1,016 yards in 2023. He ended up with 64 for 1,017 last year with the Titans. So basically the same exact amount of yardage put out there. Now he did average 15.9 a catch for the Titans last year. So that's a pretty good number. I mean,
It's a good number.
that's the highest number of his career, at 15.9 a catch. So maybe there's an explosive part of it that's still there for him that you can tap into with the next quarterback. But he's also 30 now. Like, he's 30. So how quickly does the speed that's made him really effective, how quickly does that start to go the other way? Really, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as of now, as based on last year, I think great acceleration, especially you get him the ball in his hands and he can really turn it on. So he's, it's not really a deep threat guy by, traditional terms, but he can, he made some plays vertically too. So, I mean, again, it turned out pretty well, especially given, like you said earlier, how bad it was early in the season where it was like, there was a few week stretch there. It was like he was doing nothing. And so if you look at his last, I can look at it here, but like his last probably 10, 11, 12 games, that was the kind of production you're very happy to get. He's got to have, there's got to be another receiver, at least one other receiver that concerns defenses.
But the other thing is, in 2023, he had 76 catches. He was targeted 136 times. So, I mean, that's not exactly the rate that you're looking for. And then last year it got worse. He was 64 catches on 120 targets. That's almost dead right down the middle at 50%.
Yeah.
So
you got to be at a higher percentage.
You could look at that and say, well, that's on the quarterback. Like, the quarterback can't get in the ball the last couple of years. If you get a quarterback in here that can, how much does the percentage go up and the production go up if you're Ridley?
But I think it's also, and this came out of Jacksonville after he left, and we saw it last year. It's also on him a decent amount.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, so, because I mean, Trevor Lawrence, you may not think Trevor Lawrence is great, but I feel like Trevor Lawrence knows what he's doing, has command of the offense, and if if there's a new receiver in a given year, and that stat comes out, I'm probably going to put a lot of blame on the receiver. And then when you combine it with what we saw last year and heard, yeah. So, I don't know. Does that get better in year two? Of course, it's going to be a different guy throwing.
I mean, the thing is, though, like, he didn't really have that problem early in his career. Like, his catch rate with his targets earlier in his career in Atlanta was just a lot better. So why is it gone the other way? Now, obviously, Trevor Lawrence and Will Levis are not Matt Ryan throwing him the ball. We get that. But you're right. Like, we had Duraco on, who covers the Jags, before the season last year. And we were talking with him about Ridley, and he talked about, like, some of the conversation out of Jacksonville was he didn't always know where to be and know what to do. And I think you saw that early in the year last year.
Yes. Got better. So that's good. But so is that like because same offense, it'll stay better, or do you have to, you have to totally relearn the next quarterback, and is that going to be a big learning curve? Real quick, Ron says, history shows Titans get rid of anybody who's good, wants more money. Henry, Conklin, AJ, Cook, McNair, Mason, everyone who was ever great in Nashville. It sucks. Well, I will say that Derrick Henry, Taylor Lewan, Kevin Byard, Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, Amani Hooker, these are just off the top of my head. These are guys who were part of a lot of winning, who were great to very good players who got second deals. So I don't think it's that simple.
No, like, people can say Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry got his second deal.
Exactly.
Now, they eventually let him go. And again,
he was incredible.
I still think people think that there's just like this. It's like, well, Derrick Henry would have never left here if the Titans didn't want him to go. It's like, Derrick Henry probably wanted to get out of here as much as, like, Derrick Henry's not stupid. He could see this coming.
Yes. Now, if the Titans would have given him a sweet offer of an extension while he was still here that year, would he have accepted? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they didn't. Yes, I agree. It was a two-sided decision.
Yeah,
for sure.
By the way,
AJ, you should totally complain about AJ. Conklin was defensible, as we've talked about.
No, AJ's the one where it's just like,
AJ's a disaster.
Man. Yeah,
Conklin got an offer. Titans it just didn't. It wasn't enough. I mean, the Browns paid him more, so he left. But it wasn't like not paying you at all.
No, the one thing you could have a problem about Conklin is they didn't pick up his fifth year, right? And then but now he had been hurt. So like you can go both ways on that. But it is kind of amazing when you look at what has been at right tackle since Jack Conklin left here.
That is definitely one of those you'd go back and probably change. But again, he's continued to be hurt a lot. So.
Yes.
But one-legged Conklin is better than a lot of the offensive tackle play you've had the last few years.
737-1025, our phone number. The Rob Rant coming up next. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
All we're trying to do every offseason, right, is put ourselves in the best position to get a player that we're trying to get. And if something like this would detract from that, lessen our chances, I don't know. I think he might be a little more apt to do the change that I did than people think, because it was about winning.
And it just felt like the right time for this to happen. And I think overall it's going to be a really good thing. It'll probably be a little weird for a lot of us that have, had this policy for a long, long time.
Breaking news, baby. The New York Yankees are allowed to grow beards. I had forgotten about this, Joe. I had forgotten about how there was, a policy where they can't grow facial hair. Still one of the most jarring images in my sports lifetime. I was at the time playing baseball all the time. It was my sport growing up. The Red Sox-Yankees rivalry of the early to mid 2000s was great. Obviously, 2004, the Red Sox come back, they win the World Series. Johnny Damon, big part of those Red Sox teams early on. He had the long hair, the shaggy beard all over the place. And one of the most jarring images of my life was when he signed with the Yankees and he showed up like totally clean shaven.
Sell out.
I was like, who's that guy? That's not Johnny Damon. It was Johnny Damon who could not grow a beard. This policy has been in place for 49 years, have not been able to grow a beard. I mean, they're talking about it right now.
Talk about the timing,
on
man.
ESPN.
Talk about timing.
Like it's kind of Hal Steinbrenner put out this big, long statement from the Yankees social media. You heard Hal Steinbrenner, some of his comments there, and he's talking about, it's the appropriate time to move beyond the familiar comfort of our former policy, and went into really a nice philosophical discussion, Joe, about how like beards nowadays with men who are, 20s, 30s, 40s, it's part of who they are. Like it's part of their character. It's a part of their persona. Do I totally relate to that? It's difficult for me. I'm an older guy who's never had a beard in his life, but it's a very important thing to them. That's what Hal Steinbrenner said. So the most important thing for me was to sit down face to face with several of our players and several of our senior staff. Look, I realize that there are plenty of jobs around the United States of America that have like their own dress code and policies and things like that. And at the end of the day, was this really the world's biggest deal? No. But the fact that they had this no beard policy in place for 49 years is one of the dumbest things I think I've ever heard of. I had forgotten about it totally until they gotten rid of this thing. And the fact that it's now gone, I'm glad it's gone, I guess. But it's also like, man, if you're the Yankees and you have standards and you think you're better than everybody else, just uphold it, man. What are you doing? Why are you caving in?
Yeah, now is when, now it's beard, open season on beards.
Now you can't, again, to be clear, like you can't go crazy with this. They did specify it's got to be well groomed.
Can't go.
So what does that mean?
Can't go Mountain Man. Can't go Nashville, East Nashville coffee shop beard. Okay.
Yeah, but so where's the line for well groomed beards? We're going to have to get Kuharski's takes on this.
That is, yes, I definitely want
That's
to
an
hear what his
unfortunate part about his team. I'd forgotten about this policy.
Well, I did too, and I said this last week. I swear that in the 1980s, Don Mattingly had a freaking mustache. I mean, I swear that I have a baseball card with Don Mattingly with a mustache.
No, you're correct. I believe they have been allowed to have a mustache, but just no beard.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe, like I'm on a piece from CNN right now. It says the rule had drawn criticism from various players over the years. Don Mattingly was famously benched for a game in 1991 after he refused to cut his hair, an incident which was later parodied in the Homer at the Bat episode of
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, Don Mattingly.
Don, your hair is too long. Go to the bench.
That was a great all-time episode. Okay, so if mustaches were allowed, then I'm not crazy. All right, good. Because I'd forgotten about it too. Honestly, the only time that it's really to me it's really come was the Damon thing, because the Damon thing was jarring.
It was weird.
It was weird. I already hate like the Red Sox, Yankees. I know like in college sports now that Bama, Auburn just go back and forth, whatever. But yes, he looked so different. It was like a completely different dude.
Yeah, it was creepy. Now there's a theory that that has been thrown out there. And I think Nick Frazier brought this to Keezer's attention. Like, it doesn't look like things are going to work out very well between Vlad Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
You've got a beard.
It does.
Could the Yankees be like, all right, we'll let you can grow your beard out. We're reversing our policy. We'll just go get Vlad Guerrero Jr. and he can play for the Yankees.
Is this because of him?
I don't know.
Maybe now it's like, okay, well, Vlad's happy to Vlad feels comfortable. Vlad Jr. feels comfortable. By the way, this was the Rob rant, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't get the appropriate background.
Keezer. Yeah. Come on, Keezer.
Keezer not paying attention in there. It's okay. Dylan says, in the military, we were allowed to have facial hair under certain circumstances, and it had to be under a certain length and well-groomed. Special forces / SEALs are the only ones allowed to grow it all the way out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I said, there are plenty of jobs around America where there are certain, grooming and or dress code policies. I just think in professional sports, when you're like the only one doing it, it's kind of weird.
Yes. And, it's like someone said Thurman Munson had a mustache. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Thurman. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Good point. Reggie Jackson. That's true.
Yeah. I think they've been cool with the mustache.
Which is hilarious.
We draw the line at the beard.
Yeah. Which is hilarious too, because to me, like the just mustache alone is like, it works for some people. Okay. It works for some people, but
imagine if like Philip Forsberg was a baseball player, played for the Yankees, just that stash out there. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Like, would the Yankees have been okay? Back in the day, one of the best relievers in the game was Raleigh Fingers for the Brewers. Would they have been okay with him? Is that why he never ended up on the Yankees? Because of that amazing twirly mustache?
What I would love to know, like if, back in the day, if Derek Jeter or Mariano Rivera ever looked at them and was just like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm growing a beard. What are they going to do about it?
Exactly.
Are they going to sit
Rivera
down?
Yeah, Rivera. Sorry. Oh, you don't want me to close every game now and be the greatest reliever of all time? Okay. That's okay. I've been paid enough. I'll just sit here and, groom my beard.
So rest easy, Yankees fans. You can now get all the talent you want because your beard policy is gone.
Oh,
at this
good.
Point.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally, the Yankees can get
starved
some players.
for players.
I'm interested to hear what PK think. I'm sure he's mad, right?
He probably is.
It's our tradition. What are you talking about?
737-1025 is our phone number. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Corey Curtis from News 2, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Corey, good morning. How are you?
I am blessed. How are you, my friends?
Well, even more blessed now that you're here. So
You are. I mean, I'm glad to hear you acknowledge that.
Rexrode just got into a Mike Tyson-esque brawl with his microphone in
Punched the
response
mic,
to it
yeah,
as well.
I'm
So
sorry.
Who won?
I think the microphone did.
As always.
So Corey, we talked about
What if Rexrode got that same face tattoo like Ed Helms did in The Hangover?
I mean,
That'd be sweet.
I think it kind of looked pretty sick.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I'm actually considering it.
What do we have to do to make that happen?
Well, he's been working out a lot lately, so he's trying to.
Yeah.
He's trying
Yeah.
to get there.
I workout guy. By the way, would the Yankees be okay with the face tattoo since we just talked about the beard policy?
I don't know. That's a good question. Corey, I'm just glad the Yankees finally going to be able to get some good players now that they can all grow beards.
Yeah. Because, spending money hasn't worked for them in the past.
Yeah, it does not. So, Corey, the Matthew Stafford situation, he has been given permission
Yeah.
to talk with other teams, and we'll see what comes of that, if there's a trade that comes about or if this is just a whole lot of talking going on to eventually come back to the Rams and those two sides work out a deal. What do you make of that situation with L.A.? If it's not Stafford, like who are you going after at quarterback if you're the Rams, and how could Stafford impact the rest of the market, do you think?
Well, it's not surprising to me because I thought during last season that this could possibly be Stafford's last year with the Rams because of his age and because of his finances and because, Sean McVay has shown not afraid to move forward at that, at other spots in the past. For the Titans, number one, how do you convince a 37-year-old quarterback that coming to a 3-win team is in his best interest? And then on top of that, you've already expressed an interest in having, 10 top 100 picks in the next 3 years? And, if you trade for Matt Stafford, that's going to cost you some top 100 picks. So there's a couple things that make that problematic for the Titans. Obviously, he would make them a lot better. He's still playing at a really high level. So I think it's possible the Rams move on from him. What do they do at quarterback? I don't know. I think they, clearly, they have some ideas. Maybe they're in on Sam Darnold. Maybe they feel good enough that Sam Darnold can be their guy. Or maybe there's somebody else out there that they've got their eyes on that they think they can win with. I'm not really sure who that is. But eventually, we all have to turn the page on things in our lives. And, that's, the really good sports franchises are the ones that aren't afraid to make the hard decisions and then tend to make them at the right time. And, maybe they see something in Matt Stafford to say, you know what, we've seen the best of him and we need to just try to start figuring out what's next because financially we're not going to get the bang for our buck.
Yeah, and to your point, I feel like if that's where it's going to go, Darnold is the only thing I can come up with, really.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they love someone in the draft, but I just that would kind of surprise me. So, but Darnold,
they have to get there. That's the other thing.
Right.
They're drafting. I don't know. They got to be in the 20s, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they're not going to get either the top two. So maybe they love Jackson Dart or something.
Tyler Shugg, yeah. Really, could be.
They're 26. Yeah,
26. Yeah. So we've been talking, Corey, about that in general. That topic at large, the reclamation QB, which obviously has become such a bigger thing in this league. Philosophically, have you changed at all on this? Like philosophically speaking, the Titans obviously have one of the great examples in the last few years with what happened with Ryan Tannehill. But I've said, this is part of why I'm going to be even more selective in the draft because quarterback movement has increased so much in this league that you can get good to very good, whereas you may get great if you draft at the top of the draft a rookie, but way more likely you're going to get nothing or very little from it. Do you look at it like this is a better way to go, more of a sound strategy now in this league?
If I was a coach looking to save my job, then yes, absolutely. And, we talk about Ryan Tannehill being a reclamation. Yes, there was some of that, but he was a 4,000 yard passer, I believe, for the Dolphins. I mean, he had some years where he put up a lot of yards. He maybe didn't win real big there, but he had some positive production. It was why he was such a good choice to be Mariota's backup, was because he was a proven commodity. And, getting a proven commodity, that's why, I've advocated Derek Carr. I know some people hate that choice, and that's fine. But Derek Carr is a proven commodity. He maybe hasn't won a ton, but he's got 4,000 yard seasons. He's completed a lot of passes. He's pushed the ball down the field. And that's what makes Sam Darnold, appealing now as well, is he's proven he can win in this league. Not in the playoffs yet, but he's proven he can lead a team to double-digit victories in the regular season. And we've all seen what a crapshoot, what the draft is, no matter, how much we like guys. I mean, people were splitting hairs on Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning, and they couldn't have been more opposite once they got to this level. I mean, me, I love Caleb Williams coming out of the draft. I still like Caleb Williams and think he will be a good quarterback. But, I mean, he didn't have the rookie year that I and many expected. That could be because of the organization. But also, I mean, look, it just didn't happen for him like we thought it would. And that's, when you've got a guy who has done it at this level, I think there's a lot of value to that and a lot of security to that, especially, if you're coming off the sting of a 3-win season.
Well, to that point, it's Combine Week. It's Rexrode's favorite week of the sporting calendar year when the NFL Combine gets underway.
Yeah, baby.
Is there anything specifically that you're intrigued by with the Titans brass this week? Keeping in mind that we know this time of year, Corey, a lot of the talking that goes on, some of it is probably what they believe. Some of it is probably posturing. So how do you view the Combine and what you hope to hear from the Titans and Mike Borgonzi and company this week?
Well, I'm interested in what their branding is, are they going to endorse these quarterbacks or one of these quarterbacks, or are they going to just let it be known, hey, we're trading out, and whoever wants the pick, we'll give you, the best deal is going to get it. Because this is when everybody's together. This is when a lot of the talking happens, and we talk about it being a talking season and the lying season. But what's the message that they want out, that they're interested in these guys or not? Because I think, when they left the East Shrine game, we got the reports of, boy, they really liked their meeting with Shedeur Sanders. And, that's great, but, no one's still seen Shedeur Sanders work out, and they're not going to see it in Indianapolis as well. Some of the initial stuff that we're starting to hear is already about their interest in trading out, and that's not surprising. But I think that's, are they going to let it be known, which way they're pushing their chips?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. Ed on the text line says, a PSAs for all Titans fans, prepare yourself for Titans were blown away by Cam Ward interview this week. 'Tis the season. Either it's the agent of the Titans. I want that narrative out there. I could see that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, is Cam working out at the Combine?
We just know Shedeur is, but only because Ian Rappaport said his film will speak loudly for him. But Cam, I have not heard.
Yeah, Shedeur's not.
Yeah, Shedeur's not. So you have to. I guess Shedeur only wants to throw to Travis Hunter.
I mean, honestly, I knew Shedeur wouldn't, because if on the chance that Cam Ward was going to, he would suffer by comparison, I think, just in terms of the arm talent and the wow throws. So you've seen that in the videos that they posted online.
Yeah. A lot of trash talk.
I love that.
Which I kind of like.
I do too. But I hope Cam, I hope he throws. I feel like we're just going to have more and more top of whatever position deciding to do nothing at these things, don't you think?
Well, last year, Caleb and Jaden, neither of them threw.
Yeah.
That's
And
the way things
I think
are going.
I think I probably said, Jaden, Dan, you got to throw. What are you doing?
Worked
Yeah.
out okay.
He's
for him.
okay.
Worked out okay for him.
All
Corey,
right.
couple things on the hockey front. Number one,
Oh, gosh.
what did you make of the Four Nations tournament, the final, everything involved with it, and what you think that could do for the sport? And secondly, this is in for just a painful close to the season here for the Predators. What do you make of now what's in front of Trotz as the deadline approaches?
Well, so I'll start with Four Nations. I've always been a huge fan of international hockey. I've always found it superior to everything else. I mean, like Stanley Cup hockey obviously is amazing, but I've always been a huge fan of Olympic hockey. And it's not just USA, Canada. When you get these guys playing for their countries, I mean, Finland, Sweden's a big deal to them. And I think the NHL and the Players Association have struck on something that's going to be really popular for a long time. And it's going to be interesting to see what variations and how they change it, to keep it fresh and to keep it moving forward, each year. Jared and I talked about it some Friday, some of the things that they could do. I don't know that it brings a ton of new fans to the table. But I think it does grow the sport. It put it in the spotlight. It was one of the most, I think it was the most heavily bet hockey game in like 7 years or something. So, it obviously brought a lot of mainstream attention to the sport, which is very, very healthy for it. On the opposite spectrum, I got bamboozled by the Preds again on Saturday night. Gave me some hope that, hey, maybe they're going to come back and finish strong. And then we saw last night. And I know that Coach Burnett said he saw a lot of things he liked on offense. And I get that from a coach perspective, but they scored 0 goals.
Yeah.
And they have been shut out 8 times. 8 times with Marchessault, with Stamkos, with Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, Yossi. I mean, that shouldn't be possible. And then, what's also mind-boggling is, like, you take Evangelista and Sissons. I think last year they combined for about 40 goals. Is that right?
In the neighborhood, yeah.
And where are they at, about 11 right now?
It's not good. Evangelista in particular last night was brutal.
I mean, they're going to be lucky to get to 20. And I guess that's the bigger question for me is, like, with those guys and, Michael McCarron and a lot of these other secondary scorers, what happened to all those guys this year? I mean, did they all just have career years last year? And this is a revert to the norm? Or did everybody just dry up? I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. And it's going to be a long slog to the finish. I think they got 26 games to go. I think they're 10 points ahead of the Sharks. So I don't think there's any way, unless they absolutely just crater, that they could approach the first pick. Probably looking at their third now, and that's probably going to be in the neighborhood that I'm going to guess they're going to pick at, because they have shown no ability to perform consistently. And after 56 games, there's no reason to expect that to change. I mean, the sample size is now big enough that what was the saying Bill Parcells had, your record says what you are.
You are what your record says you are, yeah.
Yeah, this is what you are. And, the tough decision for Trotz is, who does he get rid of? Who does he hang on to? Who can he get rid of? Who has the no move clause? Whose contract makes it very difficult to get rid of? Because, at this point, none of it's working. None of it's working. And, you got some major questions to answer. And, like we talked about last week, I guess the biggest positive you saw was Saros give up 1 goal Saturday night.
He looked really good Saturday. Yeah.
And if you can get him right the rest of the way, I think that would be, a huge step forward as you look to next season.
Corey, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Enjoy all the combine coverage this week. Rexrode's very excited about it, and we'll talk to you next
Can we
Monday.
You gonna go up there?
Yeah, we are loading up the News 2 caravan
Yeah.
at 4 a.m. tomorrow
Yeah, baby.
to get up there. Hopefully that gets us there in time.
What time is it tomorrow? We're finding out. What time is it tomorrow? The interviews?
9:15 and 9:30 Central Time.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Of course it is.
Right
Right,
after we get off
after
the
our
air.
show.
That's good stuff.
Why? Absolutely
Yeah,
perfect. Well,
So,
you
yeah.
enjoy. Say hi to everybody.
I will. You're not going to be there because I was going to make a reservation for us at a tattoo shop.
I mean, maybe if you can get me drunk on shrimp cocktail,
Ew.
Yeah.
Sounds
I like
great.
shrimp cocktail,
Yeah, I
but
know.
the thought of getting drunk on it sounds
Well, you gotta
really
get
awful.
the St. Elmo shrimp
Oh, yeah,
cocktail. Yeah.
Okay, my daughter's 12 years old now, and she brought up a really good point. We were at the grocery store, and she saw the clam juice on the aisle, and we were like, that is disgusting. Who drinks clam juice? And she's like, Daddy, somebody drinks it or it wouldn't be here. And I'm like, you
That's a
know
good
what?
point.
It's been in the grocery store in all my 54 years. So evidently, more people than Homer Simpson are drinking the clam juice.
I've never even heard of clam juice. This is a
I've seen
disgusting
it, too.
revelation
I've
that
seen
you
it.
brought to me.
It's weird.
It comes in like a foggy white glass bottle.
Ooh.
Selling
And
it.
there was actually an episode of The Simpsons where Homer was chugging clam
Oh,
juice.
good. Yeah. A lot of Simpsons talk on today's program.
Simpsons Day.
It's good stuff. Thank you, Corey.
Later.
Corey Curtis, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic, joins us every Monday morning at 8 o'clock. We'll react to what Corey had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Rexrode's favorite week of the year. It's Combine Week. Really a shame he's not going to be there later this week.
I mean, how perfect is it that they talk right after the show ends tomorrow? Absolutely.
I mean, we
perfect.
probably should have guessed that. That's typically how.
I mean, I knew it would
things
be
go.
after, but yeah, it could have been noon, and then you don't feel so bad, right? Chase and Big
It's like,
Joe.
whoa, Robby and Rexrode are off the air. 9:02. Let's get this thing going.
Yep, Chase and Big Joe again benefit from our misfortune.
Yeah. Good news is we can talk about it the next day. I mean, I know you're going to want to get as deep into the weeds of NFL Combine talk as we possibly can
Hey,
this week.
I am legitimately grateful that we have new commentary.
I am too.
I mean,
I am too.
we'll take it. We will get some information this week. A lot of it will be absolutely worthless, but it will be information that we can discuss.
I'm interested to see what the Cam Ward conversation looks like this week at the NFL Combine. That's about where my interest begins and ends this week with the NFL Combine. But, you know, the Titans and interviewing Cam Ward. What do they say about Ward and Sanders? Do they say anything at all? Do they say, yeah, we feel like, both these quarterbacks are good players, good stuff?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's –
I doubt very seriously they're going to get up there and do what Corey threw out there in terms of like, hey, guys, we're trading out of this thing.
right.
Open for business. I'd love it if they did, but I doubt we're going to see that.
Yeah. That statement gets made, or the opposite of it gets made based on what they do in free agency. You know, this is the week, right? And this is the time to continue to have an open mind to me and get into these conversations with both of those guys and see how it goes. And sometimes you do get blown away in those interviews. That can make a big difference. Again, you know, those sessions and then your visits too, you know, if you have them for visits, that's where you can learn a lot about what you're seeing on film. The questions you have on the film can be answered. Sometimes they're answered to your satisfaction, sometimes not at all. But that's all part of the process, and this is important. That part of it is. The other stuff, I don't know. Is Shedeur, is he going to do the bench? Is someone doing the three cones? Like, who cares?
Sure.
I don't know.
Him, you're not going to throw. I wouldn't do anything else either. Like, no, I'm good. I'll talk to you.
Right.
That's about it. So,
yeah. So we'll see if Cam goes out there and wings it around. That'll be interesting to see if he decides to do that.
Yeah. That's about it.
There you go.
Looking forward to the Combine.
Yeah. Well, next week is March, and then
Right around the
free
corner
agency
for
is
free
coming.
agency.
So, you know, that's actually things happening.
He brought up the Predators there. You know, over the weekend, they get the win against Colorado in a game where I don't think they played overly great in that game, but their goalie did. So you win the game. Yesterday, they lose 5-0. And to Corey's point, I hear what Andrew Burnett is saying. Like, they did have the puck a lot, and they did spend a lot of time in the offensive zone. It didn't lead to anything, and he didn't score. So, like, it's the 8th time this year you've been shut out. At this point, we know that it's just going to be a disaster of a season. Now, Corey talked about they're 10 points ahead of the Sharks, which they are. It is a lottery system, so you can still end up with the number 1 pick if you're the Predators. We'll see how things go. But like right now, honestly, we were having this discussion on Press Row this weekend. Like, it is what it is. You've gotten to this point. You're 56 games in. You need to start losing. Like, you need to start, not that they've had much of a problem doing that this year, but like, you're here now. So let's just take advantage of it and get you as high of a pick as possible.
Yeah. So you move Nyquist, maybe more than that. And in some cases, I think the lineup gets younger to see some people and to see some guys you might lose a little more that way. Right.
Yeah. Like, look, they're doing a good enough job of that by themselves right now without having to switch the lineup around too much.
Right.
They're 4 points back of Buffalo, who's 29th in the league. They're 7 points back of Seattle, who's 28th. So like they're pretty comfortably 30th right now. Like, they've got some wiggle room here to be 30th. Really is like, Can Chicago catch them? San Jose is bad. I don't think San Jose is going to catch them, but
It's a tradition.
like if you could end up, like if you're the Predators fan at this point, and what I would love to know, like if you're Barry Trotz at this point, and he'll never say this publicly, but like if you gave him like an honest moment and they told you that this is where you could end the season, 30th in the league, how many Predators fans / members of the front office would sign up for it at this point? Like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's take our shot at the draft here.
Darn near unanimous.
Yeah, like I think it's got to be at this point. And I know like it's going to make for just a brutal last couple of months of the season here. It is.
Well,
And you look, I felt it walking in that room yesterday. Like there is misery in that place right now.
yeah.
And it ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. That especially would raise a hand to just not have to go through
Right.
the next few weeks of hockey. We can get into this at some point this week, but there is, I feel like the rest of the season is still kind of important for Andrew Brunette.
I would agree. I think we're drifting quickly into there's just not much of a choice you're going to have at the end of the year if things don't change. Like, I was talking about this with people last night, and like you said, we'll get into this later this week in more detail, but like I do think at some point along the way here, like you have to show that you can fix it, and he has not shown this year that he can fix it. So I don't know what that's going to mean at the end of the year, but I know that that's going to be a heavy discussion as soon as the season ends. There's no doubt about that. By the way, people yelling on the text line, apparently in the Simpsons episode, it was crab juice, not clam juice.
Oh, well, that's much better.
We got a lot of, there's one texture that says, clam juice, an ingredient in so many good things. Have you ever had pasta with clams?
Yeah.
If it's white sauce, it's got clam juice in it.
Yeah.
Like in New England, the clam chowder. A lot of love for clam juice on the text.
I love some clam chowder. I love some pasta with clams. And listen, if you've ever had Caesar salad and you get grossed up by putting anchovies in your Caesar salad, which is what I do every time I can, well, Caesar salad has anchovies in it. Same thing.
Gross.
Try it. Try it one time.
I can't do it.
Yeah, everybody's giving me the big thumbs down.
Anchovies
You guys
is
have
just
to try it.
It's a
Try
mental
it one
block,
time.
man. Can't do it.
They're very salty.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. I got more of your thoughts to get to on our text line. We will get back into the quarterback discussion. A couple of your thoughts to get to on the Preds as well. We'll do all that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nashville's best deal this week is from Barrio Burrito Bar in Murfreesboro. At Barrio Burrito Bar, every bite is a celebration of fresh ingredients, vibrant spices, and bold flavors, dancing on your taste buds like a fiesta in your mouth. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals and get half off a $25 gift card while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. A lot of different thoughts on the combine part of this. Dennis on the text line saying, what if the Titans would have been blown away by Shedeur Sanders coming in for a drill? You'll never know now that the combine, he's not participating in it. Because I have to be really intently watching his pro day.
The three cone might have been like, uh-oh, did you see that 3 cone? All right. That's our guy.
Is Dion going to be over there yelling in the pro day? Is he running the drills?
Oh man. Yeah, the whole Dion thing will be interesting. How visible or actually not visible is he? Obviously, he'll be there on draft night.
Sure.
He'll say stuff publicly. He's got a team right now getting ready for spring practice.
He does.
Is he going to just be hovering?
I'm sure
he's like helicopter dad through this whole thing.
Sure. Spring practice in Boulder could be interesting. How cold is it out there right now?
I don't know. It's always a little weird in the mountains,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not.
It's 48 there right now.
I was going to say, sometimes it's not as bad as you might think.
Oh, it's fine. They're in the 60s all week.
Yeah, there you go.
That'll be fine.
Well, there you go. Yeah. I mean, look.
Time the middle of March rolls around, it'll be in tropical paradise up there.
Exactly.
No wonder he stayed. He ain't worried about Shedeur and Travis Hunter leaving.
I've never been to Boulder, but I've heard nothing but.
I've driven through it. It's very nice.
I've heard nothing but great things.
Very nice. I enjoyed it. Yeah, honestly, I could not care less about Shedeur not throwing at the NFL Combine.
It's just it's the reality of anybody who wants to isolate a player and rip on him for that, which I someone who works here loves to do this crap.
Yeah.
Look at the big picture and understand that this is what agents across the league have come to, which is, why are we doing anything that might hurt us if we're that high in the draft right now based on the football?
You're going to see
so
more.
This is just the norm now. So you can hate it, but you have to at least try to put it into context.
Well, and again, at the end of the day, what does it mean? What does it mean to perform well at the Combine? Is it nice? Sure. But again, Anthony Richardson is an NFL Combine All-Star. What has that done for the Colts? How has that played out for him on the field? Not saying that it's never important. Who else had a really good NFL Combine? DK Metcalf. He had a pretty darn good NFL Combine.
Yes.
And it showed that, wow, this guy's very explosive and has a lot of physical tools that make him an incredible receiver, and he's been very good in the NFL.
It makes no sense that he ran that time with that body.
Right.
And
so
he has played out to be a great receiver.
So it's not totally irrelevant, but it's not the be all end all that I think for a while too many people made it out to be. Well, you better have a good combine. It's okay. It's important. It's not that important.
It's such a tiny fraction of importance compared to the film and the football that you played, which is the stuff I like, which is when people play sports and then you can watch them play sports. And it's funny how that matters way more than any of this stuff. So yeah, Metcalf is a very good example of someone who helped themselves. There are others for sure, but a lot of times that's also okay, so you just went from the 8th back to the 4th back or something like that because you just dominated the combine. Again, that's valuable. That's great. But how much are we at the very top of this draft for the players that we generally talk about through the whole process? How much does this thing matter? It matters most in terms of the impression they make on the teams when they talk to them.
We brought up the Matt Stafford thing with Corey. So he's been given permission to speak with other teams, kind of get a gauge of where his market value is. And I think largely the expectation around the league is that he's eventually going to end up back with LA and they're going to work out some sort of new deal. However, anytime you start opening the dialogue to talk to new teams, that is at the very least interesting. And who knows, something could come for that via trade. We'll see. How do you view the Stafford part of this where it has now gotten to with the Rams and where you expect it to ultimately end up.
Very fascinated by this thing. I don't think this is going to end up impacting the Titans much unless this leads to Darnold to the Rams, in which case, obviously, I think that is a legit and potentially good possibility for the Titans. But are the Rams saying, oh, okay, you think you're worth so much, go check it out? Or are they earnestly saying, go find a deal, we will do our best to make this happen? You want to go be with your brother-in-law, the Giants? Go see what they'll pay you, and we'll see what we can get from them. I don't know. I guess, like, if you're a Rams fan, what does a Rams fan think about this? I mean, the guy won you a Super Bowl. He's still really good, I think.
He is
You
good.
can do way worse than him. You were a surprising team in the NFL last year, in part because of a couple picks on the defensive side of the ball that came right in and made you again a difficult defensive front to deal with. You got a really promising young receiver, although Nakua's injury rate right now is a little bit alarming.
Yep.
But I would want to build around him, pay him, and try to win next year. If you move on from him, yes, Darnold cheaper, so you could do more if you get Darnold and you get picks. Okay. If you really like Darnold and you get picks with him and it's cheaper than Stafford and you can improve yourself more possibly, but is Darnold that good? Is he good enough? If I'm a Rams fan, I'm kind of annoyed by this.
Well, and is Darnold going to become available? Well, and if he does,
yeah, there is that too.
Does Minnesota tag him? So, like, let's say you end up trading Stafford and you get picks back, are you sending those picks immediately to Minnesota for Darnold? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how it's going to work out with Darnold here. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. But, like, to win, like, is Darnold what you're hitching your wagon to if you're Sean McVay? Like, Sean McVay got a first-hand look at one of those two dumpster fires at the end of the year from Darnold. Now, it's
had
one
a lot
game
to do with it.
Yeah, like, it's one game. So, in his case, it's 2 games at the end of the year. But, the Rams did it to him one time.
And they did dominate them up front.
They did. So, how much weight does that hold with Darnold and what he is moving forward? I don't know. Like, if I'm Sean McVay, and certainly if I'm Sam Darnold, like, if I'm not back in Minnesota, LA is not a bad spot to be with McVay and that offense that they run. So there's a lot, I think, to like about it there. I would just be interested, like, is Darnold their plan long-term at quarterback if he breaks loose here?
Yeah, because
makes the most sense to me to just bring Stafford back and see if you can be competitive here in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So maybe they're hoping he goes out there. It's not as good as he hopes. And then they can, I think they have to pay. I think they have to pay him more.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit more reasonable on their end, and then everybody's happy. He has checked it out. Okay, maybe it's not quite what I hoped. Let's get the gang back together. That's probably what will happen, but it is an interesting situation.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A couple more of your thoughts to get to on our text line. We'll do that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Trip from Mount Juliet says, the combine shows athletic prowess, but in the NFL, you need to be able to read and react, especially at the quarterback position.
Play football.
Like, I agree with that. Now, look, again, the combine and the testing and the physical stuff, I mean, it's not unimportant. Like, you know, if you have high-level athletic traits and you're able to run a 4.40 and get yourself out of trouble and you've got an arm where you can launch the ball 80 yards, and that's a lot of physical gifts that could be very useful at the NFL level. I guess my point is it's not everything. It's not the be-all, end-all for you to be, an elite NFL combine performer. And we talk about this every year. You know, it's interesting. You get into this time of the year, and it's like you spend so much time as a prospect, like getting ready to be drafted and training for the combine and training for the drills. And it's like, all right, then you have to get back to like conditioning yourself to train to play football. Like it's two different things. And it's always interesting how we get caught up in all this every year and how there's always examples every year of NFL combine workouts that looked really, really good. And you think you might have something. And then the season comes around and they're nowhere to be found on your roster, or guys that maybe didn't test all that well that end up being critical players for you down the stretch. It happens every year in the league.
What did Brock Purdy do?
I mean,
Was
was
he not at the combine? He probably wasn't, right?
I don't know. I mean,
Mr.
he was
Irrelevant?
Mr. Irrelevant, so he didn't do enough at the combine if he was.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's worth doing the drills. You want to measure everyone. Measuring cheek size,
Yes.
as whatever that was from. Now I've gotten to the point where I'm imitating our drops. Measuring hand size. This is important for the quarterbacks. You know, don't want to be fumbling all the time. And again, the drills are good. There's certain athletic markers that you need to hit. To me, it'd be great if it was like the old days where it's like, here's a. I mean, I don't even know if anybody publicly even reported this stuff. Here's a spreadsheet of how everybody tested.
Yeah.
See at the draft. But by golly, the NFL is going to make a TV show out of everything. And I'll continue to complain about it. Nothing's going to change. So at some point, I should probably just shut up.
Remember when they were floating the idea out there of like moving the combine around?
Well, I don't think that's dead. I mean, it keeps coming back to Indy.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Like it's a good setup. Everybody knows where everything is. And it's like, it just makes sense. But they're going to keep pushing that idea because they want to make everything an event. And we've made an event out of, here's the schedule for next year, Yeah. But yeah, like someone on the text line talking about, the character issue thing when people don't test. Again, man, if you're a prospect, you have an agent, you pay your agent well, and I don't think the agents are wrong for the most part. It's like if you are at the top of the draft.
Yeah.
Now, if we get to the point where guys who are trying to prove themselves are really battling for a spot in there aren't testing, then to me, I'm like, okay, so you got a real weakness you don't want to show.
Right.
So the top of the draft players not testing, we should stop talking about it. It's just how it's going to be, and it makes sense. Now, if we get to the point where tons of players, including like middle round picks, aren't testing, that to me is like, man, your 40 sucks. Let's just hope the film's good enough. And that I would view that as a red flag. If I'm a team and you're not clearly at the top of the draft, get out here and show me what you got.
Well, is Shedeur Sanders clearly at the top of the draft?
Well, he's clearly a top 2 quarterback. And he's clearly a top 2 quarterback. And I think everybody knows his selling point is his intelligence and his accuracy, and that stuff doesn't blow you away to combine.
Right.
So I just like, to me, he's a guy who, like, if Cousins, I don't even remember if Cousins was invited or not to the combine. I don't know. He probably was. It's that's the type of guy that goes out there and it's like, well, okay, he throws it okay. That's not a huge arm. Now, the film says, man, that ball is out and is accurate all the time. Turns out to be a good quarterback in the NFL. Combine wasn't going to help him. I guarantee you, if he did throw at the combine, it didn't help him, which is why he went in the 4th round. And before the combine, Cousins, a lot of people thought he was going to be a 2nd-round pick.
I mean, according to NFL.com's combine profile, Kirk Cousins ran a 4.93
Oh, boy.
40-yard dash,
How exciting.
a 28.5 vertical jump, and did the 3-cone drill in 7.05 seconds.
I'm not brushed up on my 3-cone, but the other 2 were like exactly what I would expect. Like, so good for him for going out there and competing, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad we brought him up. So I mean, coming out, I mean, I covered him in college. People were thinking, yeah, he's about a 2nd-round pick. So then he goes there and shows he's a total non-athlete, and he goes in the 4th round. If you would go back in time, if you're his agent, would you say, hey, Kurt, let's not do this crap?
Probably so, yeah.
So, yeah, it's like if you can go out there and blow people away like Anthony Richardson, the combine helped him clearly.
He didn't do the bench press.
Cousins didn't?
No benching for
Yeah.
Kirk.
That might have made all the difference.
You know, what's amazing, like they've got all these testing numbers for like, you know, vertical jump, 3-cone drill, 20-yard shuttle, all these things. I bet the accuracy drill, I bet he was elite, man. Like how on target was Kirk Cousins with these drills? How do you measure it?
Yeah, I would hope he would have been good at that. I mean, that was his big selling point, you know. But again, it's like how much can the combine measure, you know, quick decisions?
I'll just never forget. We were doing the show while the workout was going on, and it was when Zach Wilson got out there at the combine.
Right.
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't even remember if it was the combine or his pro day. It was one of the two. And he got out there and he made this off-platform cross-body throw that was like 55 yards on dot. And apparently that was a selling point for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. He's the number 2 quarterback in the draft.
I think that was his pro day, but yes.
And then you watch him play and you're like, he sucks. Like, what are we doing here?
Exactly. Well, again, Jamarcus Russell. Holy cow. Oh, my God. All the arm talent in the world. Great, but he can't play.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson can't play. So, you know, go with the film and then talk through the film with them, and that gives you way more than any of this stuff. But what a week it'll be.
I'm looking forward to it. We will get into the Predators Andrew Burnett discussion tomorrow on the show. A lot of people want to talk about that, so we will get in that tomorrow here on the program. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. That does it for us today. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.